Good morning. It is Friday, the 26th of September 2025. Welcome to the Daylight Breakfast Show right on KDN TV, the finest television. I am your host. My name is Rachel Chipwende Hamayu, and I'll be with you from now until 9 o'clock. Today, the Finance and National Planning Minister goes to Parliament to present the 2026 national budget, and there have been a number of conversations around that, a number of stakeholders calling for certain allocations to be done to certain key sectors, and we've heard a number, like I did say, a number of stakeholders calling for certain things and hoping for certain allocations to be done. So we will see whether those concerns have been addressed or those calls have been addressed. And even as we discuss the issue of the national budget this morning, I will be joined on set a little bit later on by economist Kelvin Chisanga to just speak around the national budget and what we expect, what we should expect, as well as briefly look at last year's budget. This year's budget, that is the budget that was presented last year for this year 2025. So we'll get into that discussion this morning. But like we always do on this show, we look at stories that are making headlines in our in-house news. We also look at the newspaper headlines, and we also get to hear from you on what your comments and contributions are regarding those particular stories. We are live on your GoTV or DSTV, as well as the Top Star Decoder. We're also live on our socials, that is our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook page, so you can catch us live from there. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please go ahead and do so you don't miss out on any of our programming, or every time we go live, you get to receive a notification to let you know that we are live. On GoTV, we are on channel 27. On DSTV, we are on channel 279. And on your Top Star Decoder, we are on channel 102. Now, let's delve into the stories that we do have this morning coming out of our in-house news. Historian Sishuwa petitions HH to reconstitute ECZ, citing lack of inclusivity and constitutional breach. ZESCO commits to reducing power exports from 520 to 106 megawatts by 1st October. And Anti-Graft Group dismisses claims that HH's corruption fight surpasses Mwanawasa's. So those are some of the stories that we're going to look at this morning. Let's start with the first one. Historian Dr. Sishuwa has written to President Hakainde Hichilema, requesting for regularization of the composition of the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, in line with Articles 259, 173 and 23 and other related provisions of the Constitution. In a letter through his legal representatives, Simeza Sangwa and Associates, Dr. Sishuwa notes that the current makeup of the ECZ fails to meet the Constitution's requirements for inclusivity, equity and equality. The ECZ is currently made up of 4 commissioners. 3 are from Western Province and 1 is from Southern Province. These are Chairperson Mwangala Zalomis, Commissioner; Major General Vincent Mbaulu Mukanda, retired Commissioner, retired Major General; and Commissioner Ndioi Muliwana Mutiti, and Commissioner MacDonald Chipenzi. And Dr. Sishuwa says this is not representative of Zambia's national diversity, hence the decision to write President Hichilema asking for urgent action. He says it violates key constitutional provisions such as Article 259, which calls for regional, gender and youth balance, and also goes against Articles 173, 23, 45 and 46, which promote fairness and equal opportunity and free and fair elections. Dr. Sishuwa says this lack of inclusiveness may erode public trust in the ECZ, especially with elections just months away. He has given the president 14 days to address the issue, stating that if nothing is done, he will take the matter to the Constitutional Court. Right, so that is one of the stories we are looking at this morning. Another story that we are looking at this morning: ZESCO Limited Senior Manager for Energy Management Collins Mumba has revealed that effective 1st October 2025, the utility company will cut power exports from 520 megawatts to 106 megawatts to prioritize domestic demand. Mr. Mumba disclosed that ZESCO, in partnership with Greencore, is importing 263 megawatts of power from neighboring countries at a cost of $15 to $20 million to help cushion the country's 1,000 megawatts energy deficit. Speaking during a high-level media engagement with the UPND media team at the Mulungushi International Conference Center yesterday, Mr. Mumba also cited vandalism of installations as a major setback in efforts to restore power promptly. He stressed that the government's plan is to add 1,000 megawatts of solar power to the national grid, will be a game changer, reducing Zambia's historic 86% dependence on hydropower and paving the way for long-term energy sufficiency. Meanwhile, ZESCO Chief Engineer for Dam Safety, Ndabambi Chipeta, explained that rainfall patterns in the Kafue, Zambezi, and Iteji reservoirs remain the most critical factor influencing hydroelectric generation. And UPND Media Director Maximue says the engagement was aimed at bridging the information gap on energy challenges and updating the public on interventions being implemented by ZESCO and government. Here's a clip.
There are other players. For example, there's Mamba, there's Dollar Energy, there's Daisy. So all these other sources of supply, we have to aggregate them to come up with what is the available energy that we can then supply to our customers. But another input into the available energy is the imports. And also the exports affect that equation.
So this is the guide. For instance, this is using basically manage the load management in terms of when do we switch on customers. So we use this particular table or this particular app to know which particular lines. So the person in the control center doesn't have to think of which lines to think or to switch on. So he just basically goes to this and begins to switch on or to switch off.
As a media team for the United Party for National Development, it is our considered view that in order to fill the information gap, it will not help to hear us every time we discuss. We thought that it would be important for us to get technocrats to engage with members of the public, especially coming from statutory institutions, so that members of the public are guided accordingly.
All right, so that is one of the stories that we're looking at this morning. Another story coming out of our in-house news, the Community Action Against Corruption says it is wishful thinking to rate the current corruption fight above the one that took place during the Levi Mwanawasa's MMD regime. Organization Chief Executive Officer Brighton Tembo says the current anti-corruption efforts are dysfunctional and inferior to those led by the late President Mwanawasa. Mr. Tembo says the current campaign against corruption lacks the credibility and consistency that defined Mwanawasa's approach. He was reacting to remarks attributed to former Vice President Nevas Mumba suggesting that President Hakainde Hichilema's fight against corruption has surpassed that of the late Dr. Mwanawasa. Mr. Tembo argues that the late president's tenure set a blueprint for genuine, non-selective efforts to tackle corruption at all levels of government. He explains that the public confidence in the ACC has eroded due to failure to act on several high-profile cases and Financial Intelligence Center reports over the past 3 years. Mr. Tembo says convicting a few former PF officials and seizing assets does not equate to a functional or fair anti-corruption strategy. Here's a clip.
His own cabinet ministers, top civil servants, and Zambians in general, because that corruption fight was genuine and it was non-selective. So, you cannot rate the current corruption fight above that of late Patrick Mwanawasa just because a few people from the previous regime have been convicted and their assets forfeited to the state. And in a situation where the Anti-Corruption Commission is not actively pursuing corruption allegations emerging in the current regime, So as long as doors of opportunities and windows of opportunities are opened to the people who are serving the current regime, then the current corruption fight cannot be rated above that of Lev Patrick Mwanawasa. That's why Lev Patrick Mwanawasa, when he was in power and when he left power, not even a single senior government officials from his cabinet was put under investigations by the
And winding up the stories that we do have from our in-house news that we are looking at this morning, Procoso Member of Parliament Brian Mundubile has demanded that 40% of all business in the country's mining sector be allocated to Zambian-owned companies. Speaking at a media briefing in Lusaka yesterday, Mr. Mundubile said it is disheartening that locals are currently receiving just a fraction of the industry's multi-billion-dollar value chain about 5%. He has therefore advised Minister of Finance and National Planning, Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane, to reverse some key tax concessions granted to mining firms under the UPND government. Mr. Mundubile says the minister must reinstate the mineral royalty tax at 6% in next year's budget and to make it non-deductible in a bid to recoup lost revenues and ensure the nation benefits fairly from natural resources. He says most of the incentives given to mining companies have not benefited Zambians. And Mr. Mundubile has asked the Ministry of Finance to immediately revise the target of 3 million tons of copper production per annum by 2031 downwards to 1.5 million tons. He says the target of 3 million is unrealistic based on what has been achieved in the last 5 years. Here's a clip.
And they also paid, there was a reduction in their taxes because the mineral tax was actually deducted against their gross earnings. So going forward, Honorable Msokotwane, we expect that mineral tax will be reinstated at 6% from 3%, and also it will be made non-deductible. We want to make sure that even as President Hakainde, Hichilema and Comrade Msokotwane come round to tell us the good stories about investments in the mining sector, these investments should not only benefit the few people that interact with captains of these industries. What we have seen is that the real benefit can only be seen with the people that interface with these people and not the Zambian people. So the first thing that we want Comrade Msokotwane to do, the mining sector this time around should benefit Zambia and the Zambians. Comrade Msokotwane, the mining sector incentives and policies in the mining sector should go to the Zambians. We want the Zambians to benefit, and we will tell you how. Number one, can you please introduce measures that will ensure that all business in the mining sector, 40% of that business will go to the Zambian people. At the moment, the Zambians are participating within 5% or less. Now, these are billions of dollars that are going into these mines. We start by giving them incentives on mineral tax. We make it deductible, and we're not even strict on protecting.
These are some of the stories that we are going to be looking at this morning. We are going to take a short break. When we return on the other side, we continue with the program. We will look at the newspaper headlines. We'll also open the phone line so that we get to hear from you and what your comments and contributions are as we proceed with the program regarding these particular stories that we have looked at, even those that we are going to look at on the front pages of various newspapers, as well as today, the national budget being presented to Parliament this afternoon at 14:15 is when the Minister of Finance is expected to arrive at the National Assembly or the Parliament grounds. We'll take a short break. When we return, we continue with the conversation. We'll be right back.
Our media house is committed to upholding the highest standards of professional conduct and ethics. As part of our dedication and responsible journalism, we have subscribed to the Code of Ethics established by the Media Self-Regulation Council of Zambia, MSCZ. We value your feedback and take any concerns regarding our content or professional behavior seriously. If you feel aggrieved by any aspect of our operations, we encourage you to reach out to the MSCZ Media Ethics and Complaints Committee for assistance. assistance and resolution. To lodge a complaint or seek redress, you can contact the MSCZ Ethics and Complaints Committee via email at mselfregulation@gmail.com or by calling the dedicated mobile number for media violations at 260-777-348695. Alternatively, you may also send your complaints in writing to the following address: Chairperson, MSCZ Media Ethics and Complaints Committee, PO Box 32295, Lusaka, Zambia. We appreciate your support in helping us maintain the highest standards of professionalism and integrity in our journalism. MSCZ Media Ethics and Complaints Committee, promoting a professional and ethical media in Zambia.
This is a people's game. They will be bubbling about this one for weeks and months to come.
Wherever you are, whatever your reason, it's on SuperSport all season long. Reconnect to DSTV Compact and GoTV Super Plus today and get the best football on us. Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. Every chance you gotta get it, get it, get it.
I'm talking to you.
Get it, get it. And every chance you gotta get it. If I was presented, how could I not go get it?
The job has been done.
And every chance you gotta get it.
It's time for you to see the world.
Big fan.
No matter your entertainment needs, Showmax has a selection of plans for you to choose from. The Showmax entertainment plan is perfect for you and your family. Watch Showmax originals, hit international and local series and movies. If you're a solo streamer, you can get all this on one mobile device. And for all the die-hard PL fans, catch all the live games on the Showmax Premier League mobile plan. Showmax has your back. Sign up today and let your streaming good life begin.
Brand new on DSTV. A Miami couple try to keep the peace at home while pitting their design firms against one another.
I wouldn't want to be competing with anybody else besides my better half.
I think I got this.
Archaeologists scour land and sea in search of Cleopatra's lost tomb.
The moment of discovery is addictive, but we are running out of time.
6 friend groups relive the terrifying stories behind one of their own turning to murder.
When something that traumatic happens to you, you start to question everyone around you.
Tread the line between science and the supernatural with unusual discoveries and unexplained phenomena.
What's causing this unusual sound phenomenon?
Who put them here and why?
And a big city policeman's move to an idyllic coastal town doesn't offer the respite he'd hoped for.
I'm Carl Alberg, Chief of Police. Everyone confesses sooner or later to somebody.
Stay connected to everything new on your home of entertainment, DSTV. Sir.
Welcome back. You are still watching the Daylight Breakfast Show right here on KBN TV, the finest television. Before we went on a break, we were looking at stories that made headlines in our in-house news, and I did indicate that when we come back, we are going to look at the newspaper headlines. Now, this morning we will start with the Daily Nation newspaper. On the front page of the Daily Nation newspaper this morning is a headline that reads, Judges' secret interviews end today despite John Sangwa, State Counsel, through Legal Resources Foundation, having sued the President, Speaker of the National Assembly, and the Attorney General to hold the interviews and eventual employment of the judges against the Constitution. Right, so that is what is on the front page of the Daily Nation newspaper this morning. Another headline on the front page of the Daily Nation newspaper this morning, Zambia moving forward. Sokotwane. Another headline reads, belittled, shamed chiefs Calabar. Another headline reads, tribalism more pronounced under UPND. Mundubili. And another one reads, Sishuwa gives HH40 a 14-day ultimatum to reconstitute regional ECZ. On the front page of the Real Times newspaper this morning is a headline that reads, we aren't sex slaves. Kazungula, women speak out about untold sexual gender-based violence, SGBV, by their husbands. And on the front page of the Real Times newspaper, there you see a picture of the Finance and National Planning Minister, Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane, like we have been saying, or like as you may be aware by now, that today the minister is expected to present the 2026 national budget to Parliament this afternoon. All right, so we are going to be discussing that this morning with economist Kelvin Chisanga to just have a conversation around the budget. All right, so we are going to take a short break and then we will return.
Live from Lusaka, Zambia. This is the KBN TV's Daylight Breakfast Show.
We are looking at newspaper headlines for this morning. Once again, we are going to go over the Daily Nation newspaper. On the front page of the Daily Nation newspaper this morning is a headline that reads, Judges' secret interviews end today despite Sangwa State Council through Legal Resource Foundation having sued the President, Speaker of the National Assembly and the Attorney General to halt the interviews and the eventual employment of the judges against the constitution. Another headline reads, Zambia moving forward, Msokotwane. Another one reads, HH belittled, shamed chiefs, Kalaba. Another one reads, tribalism more pronounced under UPND, Munduwile. And another headline reads, Sishuwa gives HH 14-day ultimatum to reconstitute regional ECZ. On the front page of the Real Times newspaper this morning is a headline that reads, we aren't sex slaves. Kazungula women speak out about untold sexual gender-based violence, SGBV, by their husbands. And another one reads, girl defiled in uncle's full view. On the front page of the Money Daily newspaper this morning is a headline that reads, Zambia's annual inflation rate drops to 12.3%. Annual inflation rate for September 2025 has dropped to 12.3% from 12.6% recorded in August 2025 on account of price movements in both food and non-food items. Other headline reads, Zanaco leads historic 250 million US dollar syndicated loan for UCF boosting agriculture food security. Another one reads, Zambia's debt stock remains high at over 117% of GDP, JCTR. And another one reads, Bank of Zambia advises Zambians against engaging with unlicensed online loan providers. All right. On the front page of the Must newspaper this morning is a headline that reads, tribalism rife in church, but bad laws stopping people from speaking out. Father Piri further reads, you cannot have a nation with leadership of 3/4 emanating from one region. Another headline reads, Sishuwa challenges biased ECZ composition. Another one reads, we're going through hell, UPND official. And the final one reads, two Chief Ndubenis attend Hichilema meeting. On the front page of the Newsdiggers newspaper this morning is a headline that reads, we don't stand for a president, but we should have stood for National Assembly. HH was right. House of Chiefs. Another one reads, NPA parts ways with prosecutors without law degree. And another one reads, Musokotwane to present 2026 budget today. And the final one reads, Bank of Zambia warns illegal lenders cautions public. All right. So there is a statement that was issued yesterday by the Bank of Zambia relating to, and is it illegal or unlicensed money lenders? I'm just trying to find that statement so that in case you missed it, you can hear, we can read it in your hearing so that you hear what the statement, what was contained in that particular statement, right? Remember, the phone line is open if you would like to call us, if you would like to make a contribution towards any of the stories that we have looked at this morning. You can call us on the number that's on the screen, or you can send a message to that very number so that we can hear what your thoughts are. Especially, remember, today we are expecting the finance minister to present the national budget for the year 2026, and a number of stakeholders have spoken to that. And we've had a number of stakeholders, like we did have some stakeholders from the education sector, others from the health sector, asking government to allocate or asking the Minister of Finance to allocate certain amounts to certain sectors, and that is, I think, as I mentioned, the health sector, and a certain percentage to the health sector and to the education sector. And so we are going to be having a discussion around that with economist Kelvin Chisanga to just speak over the national budget and what should be prioritized, what should be considered, what should be done to address the cost of living and conversations like that. And so if you would like to join the conversation, you can call us on the number that's on the screen, or you can send a message to that very number so that we hear what your thoughts are around this particular subject. Now, like I was saying, yesterday, the Bank of Zambia, and this is a story that has made it to a number of front pages of newspapers, among the ones that we have read. I'm sure you heard two newspapers having this particular story as one of the headlines on the front page. Now, yesterday, the Bank of Zambia did issue a statement headed Unlicensed Online Credit Providers. Now, it reads, the Bank of Zambia, BOZ, has received numerous complaints regarding unlicensed online credit providers that are engaged in predatory lending practices involving unfair, deceptive, or fraudulent loan practices that take advantage of borrowers by enticing them into obtaining unaffordable online loans. While the Bank of Zambia is working with other relevant competent authorities to bring the unlicensed credit providers to account, members of the public are advised against engaging with any financial service provider that is not licensed. Consumers that engage with such entities expose themselves to significant financial and other risks because the usual customer protection recourse mechanisms are not available to them in the event of disputes. We therefore urge members of the public to exercise due diligence and verify licensing status of financial service providers prior to engaging in any transaction with them. Licensed financial service providers are subject to regulatory oversight, which ensures that they adhere to established standards of consumer protection, transparency, and fair business practices. A list of licensed financial service providers are available on the Bank of Zambia website. So that is the statement that was issued by the Bank of Zambia. It would be interesting. You know what is your experience? Have you ever had an experience with some online loan or credit providers? Call us so that we hear from you. Good morning. You're through to the Daylight Breakfast Show. Kindly introduce yourself and go ahead with your contribution. Bwino mwaka bwanji. Yo.
Malaiti yaligwelero nakabwino mlongozi wanga.
Mikira. Yo.
Napo chofuna kutitika mbeko. Ngani yamene yafuno chosa ya budget. Di budget yamene yafuno chosa lero. Ifunya kuti izikondweresa abantu. Osati ukondweresa omwe koma abantu makondweresa kuti azimvera bwino tiko maboma ili usebenza. Pana mabudget wachosa bwereza abantu samvera bwino. Vindu viri high udula. So ngati vindu vikala godula ndekuti budget ilipena profit wichosa. Bozi vantu tivutika maningi onati marasha amene ali udula nkuku ili mwanu 50 malaiti odi shedding ali all over. So zonse zifunika uzika pamodzi nozisefa zeni nuwauza vantu. Chalo chonso juzi ya Zambia ta budget ise tachita mini nyakuti ndalama iyi amene napangiwa iyi 500 kwacha ikazikwanisa kugula kwa vindu vinango bayona so 500 kwacha ikanga kugula bwino vindu because vindu vokwera vokwera maningi vindu so budget yale kuti after vaione bwino kapena naiona pokale kapena ndoleta ya boss I don't know that because ngati vindu vili nomo bwino sembe stika mbapo sembe stika complainer sembe tia migachabe tuko baboma izona ya seleza kuti iboma yenze kuti manje vatitika papo deire vavindu vodula ufa uli high budget afuno josa ufa uli high marasha uli high so vose tendi vone kuti 20 kwacha izibalansa ugula koloko kanyama kangombe kafu kg 20 kwacha ngatachita tempate kuti vantu dingamike 500 kwacha icha 500 kwacha na banga yogwira na izikwanisa ugula kwa vindu vinango sister not bread ili pa 25 kwacha 25 205 kwacha. So bread ili 4 which means 100 kwacha. Ulimona 400. Nanga salad ili banka. Kama budget you should calculate the first. What's all the drive dinda wano inendandi no kunzira. Lekani jose budget dali ne minister. Kufurika kuchita kuchecking up ground kuti vindu viri bwanji kuti vanhu ali da chani. Kuti vangama kamba chani every day because ikamba day kulusaka vinga kumva sister wangu. Bayo. So meaning budget vani ngandi vaipanga loba. I budget ya unolendo vindu vichipe vindu. Ndekuti vindu vakarabwino. Malaiti yasapiteso. Ndekuti vindu vakarabwino budget kumalaiti vaikeko. Kubaticha ndalama vaikeko. Ku farming kwamene kula mtoro pili my cousin wanga huyu aikeko. Kuti vindu vibalaze fertilizer ibwerereko sister wanga. Kwazi fertilizer 1200 kwacha. Omba mulima azagula bagi imazi muntu kana 3 hectares. Akagule watu bagi 1200 kwacha. Azatira munda. Muzaka mautiko kakale bamba vest. No. Ifo mpaka mwachabe ni mulungu chabo dimbe rachifundo mvulo mwina gwera sister wanga. Ya chino chaka. So frikatizia mika mulungu. Wase titizikonde kalipirana watu wakambokamba. Because chili background is this. But what was in a vula? You respect
Okay. All right. All right, Mr. Banda Zikomo, thank you very much for your comment. Yeah. All right, that was Mr. Banda from Eastern Province, from Sinda. Just speaking to what he expects and what he's hoping for, what he's hoping will be addressed in the 2026 national budget as the Minister of Finance goes to Parliament today to make the presentation. And remember, we are expecting that he will be at Parliament at 14:15. And so we hope that you take an interest as a citizen to just hear what will be presented. We are going to take a short break. When we return, on the other side, like I did say, I will be joined on set by Mr. Kelvin Chisanga, who is an economist, as we speak over some of the expectations and just have a conversation around the national budget. We'll be right back.
Thrills and high fives alongside your fries with DSTV for Business. And turn your pub, club or restaurant into the ultimate entertainment hub with world-class live sport, breaking news, music and so much more. Plus with ExtraView, you can also show multiple live events at the same time. Our DSTV Play packages are tailored to meet your needs and budget. Contact us today to serve up the ultimate entertainment experience with DSTV for Business. Whether you run a hotel, lodge or guest house, keep your guests entertained and coming back for more with DSTV for Business. Our DSTV stay package options match your needs and budget. Make your visitor stay unforgettable with the best channels for sport, blockbuster movies and series, kids inspiration, lifestyle, documentaries, news and more. Contact us today and let your guests experience your business at its best with DSTV for Business. Transform your office, retail, or branch space with DSTV for Business. Add top entertainment at great value with one of our DSTV work packages, the Ultra or Essential, and create a welcoming and informative setting with cutting-edge news, business, sports, lifestyle, music channels, and much more. Contact us today and let our experts guide you in selecting the perfect package. When it comes to entertainment, DSTV for Business is your ultimate partner.
Yeah. Okay, hey, take it easy. Easy.
Why? Will it bring her back?
trying to wonder why you even protecting her.
Protecting who?
Monday, of course.
This is my fun.
This is your what?
Mwana kungonyonga 1 year 6 months kungonyosha hapo chabe.
Sasunga kwina kazi. Imamuna. Tombicheti kapaki. Tom, so nice.
Fuma nisiye.
Just a foot sake.
Did you kill her or not? Why would I want to kill her?
Mami Lindsay.
Watching the Daylight Breakfast Show right here on KBN TV. Before we went on a break, I did indicate that I will be joined on set by economist Kelvin Chisanga to just help us understand or just have a conversation around the national budget. And we are expecting the Minister of Finance and National Planning this afternoon to address Parliament or to present the national budget for the year 2026. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, dear viewers. Thank you so much for having me.
How are you this morning? Happy Friday, by the way.
Thank you so much. Happy Friday to you too.
You're looking forward to this afternoon?
Definitely.
All right. Yes. So I would like for us to, before we get into the expectations of this afternoon's budget presentation, I'd like for us to look at the budget that was presented last year for this year. That is the existing budget, which was 217 billion kwacha initially. It was 217 billion kwacha, and then this year a supplementary budget of 22 billion kwacha was also presented to Parliament. 33.
Yes.
33 billion kwacha was also presented to Parliament. So how has the budget for the 2025 performed?
Okay, the performance of the 2025 budget has been fairly done some good jobs. Of course, with some mixed elements also that need to be noted from there. The biggest issue that if you look into the quarter performance of the budget, first quarter we had the deficit which was running about 6.4 billion Zambian kwacha. This is coming from the reason why we could not get more of the mineral taxes, where mineral loyalty aspect to do with grants as well as VAT underperformed in the the first quarter of this year. And again, also what we have seen working out is that there are some elements that are coming also working out best, especially on the certain tax categories where we are able to see that we have managed to meet up some of the requirements in terms of expenditure requirements, except that when it came to the second quarter, the beginning of the second quarter, we had a slow disbursement attitude toward the education, health, and many others. Instead of us recording 25% of the use of the budget itself, we went as far as low as 5.7%, which is actually signaling to say that we had some levels of resiliency or resistance from that perspective. And in terms of second quarter itself as well, we've seen how it has actually given birth to some positive element where we have even seen that the macroeconomic environment has been given that positive development from that perspective. And what we have also recorded in terms of the budget spillover effect, where we are even able to see forex markets stabilizing from there, which means the balance of payment is actually lighting shape. We have also built the reserves, which is actually speaking very strong also from that perspective. So overall, the performance of this current learning budget has been mixed, but of course more totaling on the positive direction of side of things, where we are seeing that even when it comes to the deficit, we started on a higher note. We've been actually reducing from that point. And even when we are looking at the current quarter, which is the third quarter in this particular period, we are talking of a deficit narrowing reduction to almost like 3.1 billion from the high as 6.4 billion. Then we have actually also made the reduction in second quarter of about 4.5 billion, meaning what we have seen in terms of budget deficit, we are going toward the latest set microeconomic objective which we are actually in place. And even when you look at the other fundamentals and variables, inflation, exchange market, we've seen some levels of stability in all these aspects as well. And the government austerity measure linked with the IMF is also still giving that substantial effect to the overall situation around revenue and expenditure system. So what we have seen also, we have seen a strong contentment around social protection aspect, where we are even seeing now the budget also linking to the performance of the sectoral factors, where we've seen agriculture filtering through some good elements around VAT, among some other taxes as well. So even when you look at the mining performance as well, it is very much linked to what we have seen, and that is the reason why we have even now recorded the positive macroeconomic environment, which is complemented with a strong performance in the sectors. Yes.
All right. Overall, as an economist, in the year of 2025, also in addition to some of the things that you have mentioned in relation to the budget, what is your outlook on the growth of the country's economy? Starting looking at the inflation as well as the currency.
Okay, so as Sarah hinted on, maybe just to cast shadow around the performance of sectorial based sort of matrices, what we have seen working out very well here is that we've got agriculture, which is actually sound, and it has really helped so much in so many ways. And what we have seen also working very perfectly here is that the mining sector has been having the grip, owing to the fact that the current mining tax regime is actually giving that quantifiable effect. And what we have seen, if you are to even just look into the sectors that are performing very well, mining, agriculture, tourism, and also the services on the ITC, we have basically performed very well in all these sectors. Even when you go into second quarter, we've seen that these have also still consistently performed very well, even despite maybe performing about 3 sectors in second quarter. The third quarter, where we are, we've seen also the resilience of some other sectors like infrastructure, where we are seeing now road construction also taking place. So even construction now has added to the pack of performance that we are able to see. So there is a possibility, even when you look at the focus that we have actually been able to make, landing our economy at maybe 6.2 or 5.8 is very much possible because of the different combination that is happening there. And what we have seen, the first quarter recorded about 4.5% in terms of the growth, and of course we've seen how the macroeconomic convergence has actually taken place in the second quarter, where we've seen the inflation tutoring toward positive direction according to the policy corridor of single digits, and also we are seeing the stabilization of the forex market as well, where there are no sharp changes in the current currency market fundamentals. And again, we have seen inflation tutoring toward 12.3, particularly in this year, which is speaking on the good pricing effect that is taking place from there. So overall, what I should be able to say that I think this year has reached a stable platform where we have seen stabilization taking place with that dynamic system of recovery. And what we are basically seeing, it's because of what we have seen as a recent pattern of the performance, it is even more predictable to say that the next year's budget will be more to consolidate some of the gains that we have made in this particular year. So that's what maybe I should be able to say. And much more, what I can say is that I think we just need now to look at creating survival kits around maybe health issues, because again, if you look at the budget itself, the health sector has been suffering because of the donor cuts that we have actually been experiencing this year, and that's the reason why it's even plugging to the underperformance of the first quarter of the budget, because we had to now find some other survival, means to make sure that health is catered from that point. So meaning even when it comes to the budget income level on the grant side and donation, we could not do very much in this particular year. So that's one reason why even when it comes to the budget for next year, as the announcement will be given this afternoon, we expect now to have a medical trust fund, which should be able to work in parallel with the INIMA, so that there can be that effect to actually counterbalance some of the issues that we should be able to see on the table. Yes.
You have touched briefly on the next question that I was going to ask. I was going to ask you what your expectations are for the budget presentation that's going to be done this afternoon. What key sectors you expect certain allocations to go to, but overall, what do you hope will be addressed in next year's budget?
Okay, so next year's budget, given the current stabilization and dynamic recovery that we are making this particular year, there's a need for us to look at the teething issues around the budget portions, especially when it comes to those that have actually been shaken because of the donor cuts, and those that are not basically having more resources to implement the objectives of certain projects, especially with the free education aspect, issues to do with health aspect as well, and even issues to do with the supporting the mining sector, understanding that the mining sector has got so much energy, and also there is also the likelihood that we can have cycle boom in most of the commodities. And obviously what you see from the point of the metals and minerals, we are seeing that we are driving green energy. That green technology transfer sort of drive is also gravitating more importance to the industry as well. So we expect a number of policy models and medicine that should be able to work, enhance the growth of the sectors, particularly even the talks of value addition that we have actually been talking of. It's high time we look at rationalizing incentives around value addition, be it in agriculture, mining. I think that is what we need to look at. The primary sector, like agriculture, also need to be positioned, especially with the aspect of producing local fertilizer, both the top and beso. That also gives a very important aspiration that we need to anchor from that perspective. And much to this also, I think we also need to keep upwarding with the fiscal consolidation, and ensuring that we make sure that also we push more efforts and energy in energy diversification processes, ensuring that we have varied kind of energy sources, especially with the drive to do with renewable energy equipment, solar energy in particular, so that we diverge ourselves from using of hydro risk factors. So what I should be able to see is that we need taxi structures that should be able to speak of growth given, so that we can actually activate. The bad part with the next year's budget outline is that it complementing with the electoral cycle, which is also giving that shape where we have an act of balance in between fiscal discipline as well as electoral demand. So that's what we are sitting on, and it's incumbent that we should also look at how best can we create an atmosphere where we can also create saving pots, like I mentioned, of health trust fund, which should be able to help servo effect, and also we need to have mineral wealth resource fund as well, which should also be able to help us save something from the minerals that we are doing or getting from the resources that we basically have as a country. And also we need to create infrastructure bonds, knowing that our funding process is coming to be so narrow. We're not going to have an extensive drive and engagement in the external market to get creditors to come on board. So maybe we can now create something that can be inside here to just help us activate and work on the projects around, be it road and many others. So there's a strong need actually to have infrastructure bond, which should be linked to citizen participation and Zambians in diaspora, to make sure this works out better for us.
All right. Do you see any room for government to expand the areas of revenue collection.
That is quite inevitable because you see the situation that we have reached here is that we have got limited saving net in terms of revenue capacity. So there is more to consolidate what the tax administration has been doing. Particularly in this year, we've actually embedded into smart invoice and many other innovation toward taxation issues. So there is a need for us to see that actually happen, and how it should also happen. Maybe it should happen with a caution. It should trigger that element of friendliness as to avoid maybe the repercussion that can come in between. But again, it's an issue where we are sitting at delicate balance as well, where the balance of scale in this case it will be totaling toward the making more social protection and also making more social inclined sort of empowerment as compared to what we can see as profit-driven factors from that point. Because obviously, when you are running election, you always want to see how you please your voters, and that is where we are sitting now. So we see more funds going toward social empowerment and protection, and this is what is even going to happen even with the CDF. We're not going to see the loans being there, but we're going to see more grants constituted from that point, and that is what is basically even playing out even in terms of the CDF funding structure as well as the aspect of implementations.
Some stakeholders have called on government, I think, in relation to the issue of revenue, to reinstate the mineral royalty tax at 6% and also make it non-deductible. What do you think?
Well, you see, the good part I should be able to even to say in the stabilization of mining tax policy framework is that it has a predictable way in which you can also foster high scale of productivity. And what we have seen working out in the past 3 years or 2 years as it can be, it because we have remained so consistent with our policy framework. And that's the reason why we're even speaking of certain good elements that are happening in the mining sector. Maybe with the consistency that we have actually been able to have, we are likely even to hit about 1 million metric tons of production in this particular year, which it will be something that will be historically sentimental, which we basically look for even to hold as we go into the next year. But of course, next year it's got some slippery, risky issues, especially with the issue of election, which is actually a worrying component as it stands in this case. But again, it also justly demands that we need to institute discipline, ensuring that we do not go overboard in terms of expenditure, in terms of relief on taxes, in terms of more resources on social welfare. It must be a balanced sort of arrangement and engagement from that point, because obviously what we are seeing sitting very strong here is that you may need to see you'll be supported from government point of view, then want to vote for them back. But again, the issue that I think we need to create that mind of being patriotic, not of the patriotic toward the party, but patriotic towards Zambia as a common interest and common denominator for all of us. Yes.
And I will speak on that subject. A number of, I think the biggest subject or the challenge that a lot of people have been speaking to is the high cost of living. How do you hope that, of course, away from the issue of election, I know we're going into, and a number of stakeholders have actually spoken to some of the things that you have said about concerns that the budget might be tailored in a way that it tries to entice the voters. But how do you feel, or how do you think the budget can be presented or made to tailor to the needs of those citizens that are struggling with the high cost of living?
Okay, so the beginning point is, of course, understanding that we've made some stabilization and recovery process in this particular year. and what we have based on is that the sectoral performance have given a very wonderful and outstanding ratio of performance, which is also sticking into an aspect of tax interplay, meaning if the mines are doing very well, we are basically getting good, dividends for some of those that are linked even to the state. We are getting good taxes from there as well, despite even other challenging factors that we can see regarding maybe VAT claims that we basically face, particularly in the mining sector. And again, the issue that if the agricultural sector is doing very well, we have less import from that perspective, meaning we do not have so much pressure on the export market. And obviously, the resulting effect there is that the less demand in the import brings about low inflation in this case. And then low inflation speaks into interest rate, because we are not going to touch interest rate when there is low inflation, and it will speak across a good level of price effect across the board. So meaning what we are seeing right now is that we've got a very good sectorial performance, which has actually given that good atmosphere and condition. Now that has compounded with the microeconomic objective, which are also speaking in a positive direction. So meaning these two have made a very strong case in this case. And what we are seeing is that this year, with this level of stability, we are able now to give more attraction to the investors out there to come and interplay, where now we start now meeting up some of the consumers' needs, as well as also giving that production requirement that is required in the country. And at the end of it all, what we should be able to see that since the macroeconomic environment is speaking in a positive direction, so we need now to transmit that into tangible benefit to the consumers. So that is where we are right now. And linking the budget to help the people out there with maybe social cash transfer and social for work. All these are models that are speaking because of the health budget in a way, which are also trying to create that level of balance. So what we basically seeing here is that there is a coordination, which is actually an ecosystem, where if the companies are doing very well, and also the government policy objective are also speaking in a positive direction, meaning for the government now to give that good effect into the consumer and people out there, the policies now should speak now to have more growth-given, policies into some of the sectors. But even when it comes to increasing the employment attitude and the culture around all this production, it will speak into people now having more jobs, plugging into some peripheral sort of jobs as well, like consultants and many others. So this is what we are trying to see the budget speaking, because the budget now has got an opportunity, especially with the 2026, there's an opportunity for it to now to start speaking directly into the consumer, and it should be able to have that direct exposure. So what we see as basic elements in terms of the policy should be more stimulating growth, and also linking more to get more jobs, and also to have taxes that can be more flexible, and that also should be able to make the budget to be more flexible as well. So what we are seeing here is a strong link that should be symbiotically work out from the point of the stakeholders to the point of the people out there. So this is what is now in between to balance up the budget and the ballot in the next year's election. And that now speaks into the aspect of trying to see how can we do more to help the people out there. So we are likely to see more social cash transfer, extended. We are likely to see even cash for work extended as well, though it was just an ad hoc, which was supposed to be worked on the aspect of the effect of drought. But with what has been happening, there must be a way we can have direct exposure, which should be able to impact the people out there.
All right. And what reforms or controls do you think could make Zambia's spending or government spending more efficient and less prone to waste and production and corruption?
So this is where now we need to make sure that we set up all the economic linkages ensuring that our costs, and by the way, the budget is always for a good period of time now. The budget has been an input-output kind of model, which has now given a number of good reviews, even as far as monetary and evaluation is concerned. We've seen models lightly put in place to a point whereby this time, even when you are servicing government is order, you basically supply and they have to pay you within an acceptable time frame. Meaning, what is happening right now is that there is a good multiply effect, which is basically working out with the SMEs that are interplaying with the government, being the procurement agencies in most of the times, and being the largest procuring agents as well. So what is basically working out from that perspective, that there is an intervention that the budget is working out in terms of trying to make sure that resources are enough and are variable for some of the projects that they are looking forward, or even just projects that they want to procure. So what is happening right now is that there is more credibility on the budget, there is more discipline, and there is more futuristic way, and even linking now to the debt restructuring process, meaning we are not able now to just go anyhow with the debt contraction. And what we have seen now as a country, we are going toward now facilitating revenue for the government through domestic resource mobilization strategies. Meaning what we are creating when it comes to taxes, I think it's more friendly, even if it might be able to have complicities here and there. I think there is a need now to start narrowing down to see how we can create single file tax formulas, so that we should be able to be more friendly when it comes to interplaying from the business or even from the personal point of view. So more are actually coming on board to moderate and see how best we can become a part of the development perspective of this country.
All right. And how do you think government should balance debt repayment obligations with the need to fund critical sectors such as health, education, and other social sectors, and as well as infrastructure?
Okay, so in terms of balancing the debt restructuring as well as facilitating, this is the reason why maybe I should be able to put it to say that the budget has given that credibility in that we are not just going to contract debts anyhow, and again the government should be flexible enough with the certain policies that have been identified to be lagging behind some silent wars in a way, because what we have seen is that if the ICT sector is performing very well, being an emerging sector, there must be policies that should be able to modulate quicker return, as opposed to have back and forth from that point. And then again, when it comes to SME, there must be a way we can harmonize some of the licenses, because we've got duplication of some of these licenses. So for us to actually work out of that, to now create less time for us to start making more money, and also less time to do some of these approvals that we should be able to see, and also it can give more return on investment for the enterprises out there, because obviously the more they have flexibility when it comes to the policy environment, the more they are easily able to interplay into the market. So it's basically just to do some stock take of some of the policies that are basically hindering growth of businesses in Zambia, and also trying to see where we are having pressure points, especially when it comes to the implementation of the budget itself as well. And maybe the other aspect that I think this is a time now when we are even thinking of creating sovereign funds, so that it can help us to serve the needs for social protection, because obviously social protection is an important aspiration as well. You cannot grow the economy when other people are suffering. It's important that we need to create that balanced level. Imagine you have a very powerful and healthy budget, then there are people that are languishing out there. It becomes useless. What needs to be done here is that we need to create a situation where there are people that are struggling, you start lifting them up, you hold them together, so that when you are growing the economy, you'll not be able to start fighting unethical things like corruption, issues of maybe prostitution and many other things. Because obviously what basically happens when the economy is growing without taking care of the poor people, you have more issues like crime, prostitution, and all those things. So it's important, even social welfare is an important aspiration that needs to be anchored there to make sure that we uplift everyone, even in a small way. It really helps them for them to actually move from bad vices as well.
All right. So beyond copper, what long-term investments do you think this budget can make to build a more resilient and more diversified economy for the country?
Yes, I hinted just briefly on the aspect of mineral wealth resource fund. There are times when we have a cycle boom or we have a super cycle of some sort in most of the commodities, even when it comes to copper or any other. Right now, Bank of Zambia has embarked on the gold reserves, which is also helping, but though with a slow pace that we have seen, maybe we should be able to urge the central government and the Bank of Zambia to accelerate on that one, expedite more accumulation, so that it can help to buffer should it happen that there is an external shock. And again, with the aspiration that we have seen on the microeconomic objective, where we are seeing the reserves also working out in positive direction, we have a current import cover sitting at 4.7 months of import, which is also a positive direction to actually take from there. What also should be able to be done is that it's high time Zambia now should be looked into the aspect of creating infrastructure bonds. This can also facilitate some of the projects that we are carrying on. Beside the triple P model that we are implementing under the Minister of Finance when it comes to road construction, border post, and all those things, this infrastructure bond can also work in a similar way, maybe with an aspect to ensure that Zambians fully participate into it. We've got people from diaspora, Zambians in particular, who should be able to actually invest back home, but they don't have a special vehicle that they can use. This can present as an opportunity for Zambia and for ourselves as well to actually drive investment activities, be it in energy, be it in agriculture, be it in any form of sector that we are looking forward to actually enhance from there. So it's important that we should also be able to look at long-term bonds like such. And again, the issue of health aspect, we know that for sure we don't have any substantial donor or sponsor who should be able to stand with us like the way the USAG was. I think it's important that we need to look at establishing. We know that we have NEMA working out with a number of things, but NEMA has not invested in primary health care, coupled with the aspect of communication. So the Medical Trust Fund can help to work parallel side by side with NEMA, because that can even be something that can also create an attractive basket which should be able to help change the narrative in the health system. Much to this also, there need to be an efficiency also in terms of how we're supposed to implement the aspect of CDF, ensure that some of this public social intervention should be able to work with some bit of transparency, as well as also triggering that aspect of confidence, which should also be able to stand on a good test of platform. And what we have seen working out also is that I think what I should be able to say that I think there is a need for us to also create confidence ourselves to ensure that Zambia moves forward as compared to what we have always been able to see from that perspective.
All right. So thank you very much for making the time to have this conversation with us, the much needed conversation as we wait for the Minister of Finance to present the national budget for 2026 on the floor of Parliament this afternoon. Remember, he's expected to arrive at 14:15, so do stay tuned. We are going to beam the national budget right here so that you can also follow in real time. Mr. Kelvin Chisanga has been my guest. Thank you very much for making the time and for joining us. We are going to take a short break. When we return on the other side, we continue and we wind up with the exchange rates like we always do. We'll be right back.
Our media house is committed to upholding the highest standards of professional conduct and ethics. As part of our dedication and responsible journalism, we have subscribed to the Code of Ethics established by the Media Self-Regulation Council of Zambia, MSCZ. We value your feedback and take any concerns regarding our content or professional behavior seriously. If you feel aggrieved by any aspect of our operations, we encourage you to reach out to the MSCZ Media Ethics and Complaints Committee for assistance and resolution. To lodge a complaint or seek redress, you can contact the MSCZ Ethics and Complaints Committee via email at mselfregulation@gmail.com or by calling the dedicated mobile number for media violations at 260-777-348695. Alternatively, you may also send your complaints in writing to the following address: Chairperson, MSCZ Media Ethics and Complaints Committee, PO Box 32295, Lusaka, Zambia. We appreciate your support in helping us maintain the highest standards of professionalism and integrity in our journalism. MSCZ Media Ethics and Complaints Committee, promoting a professional and ethical media in Zambia.
You are still watching the Daylight Breakfast Show right here on KBN TV, the finest television. Before we went on a break, we were having a chat with economist Kelvin Chisanga relating to the national budget, what his expectations are, how some sectors should be funded, or expect what he expects should be done or should be addressed in the 2026 national budget. And we're grateful to everybody that is watching and everyone that called in. Of course, during some conversations we wanted a smooth flow, and unfortunately we couldn't pick all of your calls. We couldn't pick your calls, but we are grateful either way that you did take your time to try and reach us and have a conversation with us in regards to that. But if you still have some expectations or comments on some of the issues addressed by Mr. Chisanga, you can call me on the number that's on the screen. Unfortunately, I'll only be able to squeeze in one call because of time. So you can call, or you can send a message to that very number so that we see or hear from you on what you expect as a citizen. But even as we do continue having this conversation, just a reminder of some of the stories that we did look at this morning, coming out of our in-house news historian Sishuwa petitions HH to reconstitute ECZ, citing lack of inclusivity and constitutional breach. ZESCO commits to reducing power exports from 520 to 106 megawatts by 1st October. And Anti-Graft Group dismisses claims that HH's corruption fight surpasses Manawasas. So those are the headlines from the stories that did make headlines in our in-house news that we were looking at this morning. We also did look at various the front pages of various newspapers. We looked at the Daily Nation newspaper. We looked at the News Diggers newspaper. We also looked at the Must newspaper, the Money Daily newspaper, as well as the Real Times newspaper. So today is an important day. Okay, it's an important day in the calendar. Like I keep emphasizing, national budget. So the national budget for the year 2026 will be presented, and a number of stakeholders have made calls and have made requests for certain sectors to be funded in a certain way. For the health sector, social sectors like the health sector, the education sector. So we look forward to just seeing what some of those issues that are being addressed are. We also did look at the statement that was issued by the Bank of Zambia yesterday relating to illegal or unlicensed online credit providers. So the Bank of Zambia cautioned citizens, did caution citizens against engaging with unlicensed credit providers, and these are unlicensed online credit providers. Now the question, right? I honestly have a lot of questions because the Bank of Zambia, who is the regulator in this sector, and how do some things just go not necessarily unnoticed? I mean, for a statement to be issued to this regard, it means something has been noticed, but who is supposed to be in charge? Good morning, you're through to the Daylight Breakfast Show. Kindly introduce yourself and go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, is that KBN?
Yes, it is.
Hello?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah, Chileshe calling from Moisha.
Yes, Mr. Shileshe, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to comment. Let me speak in Bemba.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, Padi Wachanga. Siraba Chilanda Wachanga. Ama budget yonse bachita present ba government. Ilingini yasekesha ama foreigners. Because if you are in the mwandu wako bati ifwe bekala muno mumarwansha presa ngoko bati ma problems natu amabunga tatwakwata ejo food timbi inshalama ya ndomo nomba budget nga mule irumula yo iri stable iri shani ifota ile ranga iri stable so baranga barerandira ama foreigners ama banks baraba ama bank eva reranda uko bato budget yari ba step irife wino nangu economy iri stable but bachanga benyabo nga mwabe bati kayeni mumone ba brulu wenu kasama bara kwata problem yako bati barabe bati nat kwata obwafya nato akutipatala bale tupera ama prescription momone but bareranda ti bajenanka ne economy iri stable ngamoya kwefara 2 months abantu tabala poko ndalama nomani ni economy chimureranda so ababa sambirira abo bachitamishi government like nishine bachanga bati momone ama views bakwete bepusheko babrulu wabo bamone ngachako bati byo bareranda village study reflect wino background so nga mubareranda ababonsi baba bachanga biko kupapasa bachanga barerande fi insana iri mucharo so ebyo fine funa chafo ko bati nande
okay
emkwai.
Right, unfortunately we've run out of time, and like I did say, I would squeeze in one call, and I wish Mr. Chisanga was here to respond to that. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore when the phone call did come through. But before we go, like we always do, we look at the exchange rates for this morning. This morning, $1 is buying at 23 kwacha 61 ngwe, and it's selling at 23 kwacha 96 ngwe. The British pound is buying at 31 kwacha 61 ngwe, and it's selling at 32 kwacha. The euro is buying at 27 kwacha 62 ngwe, and it's selling at 28 kwacha. The South African rand is buying at 1 kwacha 36 ngwe, and it's selling at 1 kwacha 38 ngwe. Those are your exchange rates for this morning. Thank you very much for joining me on the Daylight Breakfast Show right here on KBN Television, the finest television. I have to go, but I'll see you on Monday, same time, same place. That is from 7:30 to 9 hours as we continue having these conversations. I hope that you will have a restful weekend. But before you do have that restful weekend, remember the national budget is being presented today. Take an interest, all right? As a citizen, take an interest and just listen and hear what is going to be presented by the Minister of Finance and National Planning. I wish you a blessed and productive day, rest of your day, and a restful weekend. God bless. Good morning. All right. we're still here. We're still here for a little bit longer, but remember that I keep emphasizing the need for citizens to pay attention to issues of national importance, and the national budget is something that should interest every citizen. And even when we have conversations, when we engage in discourse, you ought to know what you as a citizen ought to know what the contents of the budget are, or even just what affects you, because the national budget does affect you. So you ought to pay attention so that you know what is going on and how that affects you, so that even when you're having conversations, you know that you're having informed conversations. Okay, finally I have to go, but I'll see you on Monday. God bless.
GoTV streams your fave soaps, sports, and the loudest laughs. No extra charge, just internet connection. Your shows, your vibes, your anytime, anywhere bestie.